Imagine yourself on a luxurious cruise liner gliding along the iconic Nile River in Egypt. The sun is setting, casting a warm golden glow over the ancient temples and tombs that line the banks. You're surrounded by new acquaintances, each with their own intriguing backstory. The air is filled with laughter, exotic aromas, and an undercurrent of excitement. This is the scene Agatha Christie masterfully sets in her captivating mystery novel, Death on the Nile. Published in 1937, this enthralling whodunit introduces us to a diverse cast of characters, all of whom have secrets they'd rather keep hidden. At the heart of the story is Hercule Poirot, Christie's beloved Belgian detective, who is on holiday when he stumbles upon a murder most foul. The victim is a wealthy heiress named Lynette Ridgway Doyle, shot dead in her cabin while the ship sails between Luxor and Aswan. With no apparent signs of forced entry or struggle, it seems an impossible crime. But Poirot is determined to uncover the truth, using his little grey cells to piece together the puzzle before them. As with many Agatha Christie novels, Death on the Nile explores themes of jealousy, class, and love. The novel delves into the darker side of human nature, revealing how far some people will go to protect their own interests. Each character has a motive, making it challenging for both Poirot and the reader to identify the culprit. Lynette Doyle is young, beautiful, and wealthy, a tempting target for those seeking financial gain or social advancement. Her new husband, Simon Doyle, was once engaged to her best friend Jackie, adding another layer of complexity to the relationships on board. Add to this mix a bitter family rival, a secret admirer, and a mysterious fortune teller, and you have all the ingredients for a classic Agatha Christie murder mystery. One of the most striking aspects of Death on the Nile is its evocative setting. The Nile River has long been associated with mystery, intrigue, and history, making it the perfect backdrop for this thrilling tale. As Poirot interviews the suspects and gathers clues, he must navigate not only their web of lies, but also the cultural nuances and superstitions of ancient Egypt. Agatha Christie was a master storyteller, and Death on the Nile showcases her ability to weave intricate plots that keep readers guessing until the very end. Her characters are richly drawn, with distinct voices and personalities that make them feel real and relatable. Even minor characters have depth, adding texture and authenticity to the narrative. In conclusion, Death on the Nile is a must-read for any fan of classic mystery novels. Its captivating setting, intriguing plot, and unforgettable cast of characters make it an enduring favorite among readers worldwide. So, why not embark on this luxurious cruise down the Nile? But beware, appearances can be deceiving, and danger lurks around every corner in Agatha Christie's masterful whodunit. Dame Agatha Christie, the indisputable queen of crime, has penned over 80 novels and short story collections during her illustrious career, which spanned from the early 1920s to the late 1970s. Her works have been translated into dozens of languages, selling billions of copies worldwide, making her one of the most widely read authors in history. Among her extensive body of work, Death on the Nile, 1937, stands out as a classic Christie whodunit that combines an exotic setting, intriguing plot, and unforgettable cast of characters to great effect. Death on the Nile follows renowned Belgian detective Hercule Poirot as he embarks on a luxurious cruise down Egypt's iconic river, the Nile. However, this is no ordinary vacation for Poirot, as he soon becomes entangled in a web of deceit, betrayal, and murder when a wealthy heiress and her envious acquaintances become passengers on the same ship. The novel explores themes such as jealousy, class conflict, and the corrupting influence of wealth through its richly drawn characters. The story begins with Poirot enjoying a leisurely sojourn in Cairo when he encounters the captivating and enigmatic Lynette Ridgway, who has recently become engaged to the kind-hearted but financially struggling Simon Doyle. Lynette confides in Poirot that she is plagued by a mysterious woman named Jacqueline de Belfort, Simon's former fiancée, who cannot accept their broken engagement and seems to be stalking them relentlessly. Despite his concerns for the young couple, Poirot departs for Syria, where he receives an urgent telegram from Lynette, imploring him to meet her on board a cruise ship traveling down the Nile. Once aboard, Poirot discovers that Jacqueline has managed to ingratiate herself with the engaged couple and is now present on their honeymoon. Also on board are an eclectic mix of passengers, including a wealthy American socialite and her unscrupulous son, a renowned novelist seeking inspiration, a communist professor, a devout priest, a gossip-hungry maid, and a retired army general with his much younger wife. As the ship sets sail, tensions rise among the passengers, particularly between Jacqueline and Lynette, who cannot escape each other's presence despite their best efforts. One fateful evening, Jacqueline confronts Lynette on the deck, brandishing a gun and declaring her intention to kill herself in front of her former lover. However, before she can pull the trigger, another passenger intervenes, causing the gun to go off, killing Jacqueline instantly. Despite the seemingly clear-cut circumstances surrounding Jacqueline's death, Poirot suspects that there is more to the case than meets the eye. His suspicions are confirmed when Lynette herself is found murdered in her cabin just a few days later, shot through the head while sunbathing on the deck above. With no apparent motive or weapon, Poirot faces one of his most challenging cases yet, as he must unravel the intricate web of relationships and secrets that bind the passengers together. As Poirot delves deeper into the case, he discovers a tangled web of deceit and betrayal among the passengers, each with their own motives for wanting Lynette dead. The novel's richly drawn characters come to life on the page, revealing layers of complexity that make them both fascinating and suspect. From the seemingly perfect couple, Simon and Lynette, to the enigmatic Jacqueline and the duplicitous American socialite, each character is imbued with a unique sense of purpose and intrigue that keeps readers guessing until the very end. In true Agatha Christie fashion, Death on the Nile features numerous twists and turns as Poirot gradually uncovers the truth behind the murders. Along the way, he must navigate the treacherous waters of class conflict, jealousy, and greed, all while keeping his own counsel and maintaining a veneer of calm detachment. It is this ability to remain impartial and objective in the face of adversity that makes Poirot such an effective detective and enduringly popular character among readers. Ultimately, Death on the Nile serves as a masterful exploration of the human condition, revealing the depths of deception and betrayal that can lurk beneath even the most civilized of facades. Through its vivid setting, intriguing plot, and unforgettable cast of characters, the novel stands as a testament to Agatha Christie's enduring legacy as one of the greatest crime writers of all time. So, there you have it, a brief overview of Agatha Christie and her classic whodunit Death on the Nile. Whether you're a seasoned fan of the genre or simply looking for an engaging read, this novel is sure to captivate and enthrall you from start to finish. So why not pour yourself a cup of tea, settle into your favorite chair, and embark on a luxurious cruise down the Nile? Just be warned, appearances can be deceiving, and danger lurks around every corner in Agatha Christie's masterful whodunit. Death on the Nile, a classic whodunit by the renowned mystery author Agatha Christie, invites readers to join a luxurious cruise down the Nile River, where tensions simmer beneath the surface of opulence and elegance. The novel's setting is a key element in building suspense and creating an atmosphere that is both captivating and claustrophobic. The story unfolds on the SS Karnak, a magnificent river steamer that caters to the wealthy elite seeking to explore the ancient wonders of Egypt while indulging in every possible comfort. The Karnak becomes a floating microcosm of society, where social status and appearances reign supreme. This setting serves as both an escape from reality and a stage for deceit, manipulation, and murder. As we embark on this journey, we are introduced to a diverse cast of characters, each with their own secrets and motivations. At the heart of the story is Hercule Poirot, the famous Belgian detective known for his meticulous observation skills and iconic mustache. Poirot's presence provides a sense of order amidst the chaos that unfolds on the SS Karnak, as he works tirelessly to unravel the web of lies and expose the true killer. Among the passengers are Lynette Ridgway Doyle and her new husband Simon Doyle. Lynette, a young heiress, has recently married the man once engaged to her best friend Jacqueline de Belfort. This love triangle forms the initial tension that permeates the novel, as Jacqueline's obsession with Simon threatens to destroy the fragile happiness of the newlyweds. Another intriguing character is Louise Bourget, Lynette's French maid, who has a complicated history with Jacqueline and is fiercely protective of her employer. The wealthy American socialite Marie Van Schuyler, accompanied by her nurse Miss Bowers and her cousin Cornelia Robson, adds another layer of complexity to the dynamics on board. As the cruise progresses, we meet other passengers, including a retired British colonel named Race Beedon, who becomes entangled in the mystery when he develops feelings for Lynette, a young archaeologist named Andrew Pennington, who serves as Lynette's trustee and financial advisor, and several other colorful characters that contribute to the rich tapestry of this murder mystery. One of the novel's central themes is the destructive power of obsession and jealousy. Jacqueline's fixation on Simon drives her to commit increasingly desperate acts, blurring the line between love and madness. Meanwhile, Lynette's newfound wealth and independence make her a target for those seeking to exploit her vulnerability or envy her success. The novel also explores the complexities of human nature and the extent to which people will go to protect their secrets or achieve their desires. As Poirot delves deeper into the lives of the passengers, he uncovers a tangled web of deceit, blackmail, and betrayal that ultimately leads to a shocking revelation. In conclusion, Death on the Nile is a masterful whodunit set against the backdrop of a luxurious cruise down the Nile River. The novel's richly drawn characters, intricate plot, and exploration of themes such as obsession, jealousy, and human nature make it a captivating read that will keep you guessing until the very end. So, if you're in search of a riveting mystery filled with suspense, intrigue, and unforgettable characters, look no further than Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile. Death on the Nile is a classic Agatha Christie murder mystery that takes place on a luxurious cruise ship traveling down the Nile River. The story begins with our beloved detective Hercule Poirot on vacation in Egypt when he encounters a former flame, Lynette Ridgway, who has just married her handsome friend Simon Doyle. Despite her initial happiness, it becomes clear that Lynette is being stalked and harassed by her former best friend Jacqueline de Belfort, who is devastated by the marriage. As the cruise sets sail, tensions rise between the passengers, especially when it's revealed that Jacqueline has snuck aboard. However, just as things seem to come to a head, Jacqueline is found with a bullet in her head, and it becomes clear that someone on board is a cold-blooded killer. Poirot takes it upon himself to solve the case, interviewing each passenger and delving into their backgrounds and motivations. Among the suspects are a bitter maid, a timid honeymooning couple, an eccentric novelist, a communist revolutionary, a doctor, and a solicitor. As Poirot uncovers each person's secrets, it becomes clear that anyone could have had a motive to kill Jacqueline. But the mystery deepens when another passenger is found dead, and Poirot realizes that he's dealing with a cunning and ruthless killer. The novel explores themes of obsession, jealousy, and human nature, as we see how far some people are willing to go to protect their secrets and desires. One of the most intriguing aspects of Death on the Nile is its exploration of the different types of love and obsession that drive the characters. From Lynette's initial infatuation with Simon, which turns into a possessive and controlling relationship, to Jacqueline's all-consuming love for him, which ultimately leads to her downfall, we see how these powerful emotions can blind us to reason and lead us down dangerous paths. The novel also delves into the complexities of human nature, as Poirot uncovers each passenger's secrets and motivations. From the seemingly timid honeymooning couple who are hiding a dark secret to the eccentric novelist whose obsession with her own work blinds her to reality, we see how even the most ordinary people can be capable of extraordinary acts of deception and violence. As Poirot pieces together the clues, he reveals a shocking twist that leaves the reader reeling. The killer's identity is unexpected, and their motive is both chilling and heartbreaking. It's a testament to Christie's skill as a writer that she's able to keep us guessing until the very end, never revealing too much too soon. Death on the Nile is a captivating read from start to finish, filled with suspense, intrigue, and unforgettable characters. It's a classic Agatha Christie mystery that will keep you guessing until the very end, exploring themes such as obsession, jealousy, and human nature that make it a riveting and thought-provoking read. Whether you're a fan of the genre, or just looking for a good book to curl up with, Death on the Nile is a must-read. Sure, I'd love to dive into Death on the Nile with you. This book is a classic whodunit mystery that follows Belgian detective Hercule Poirot as he tries to solve a murder on a luxurious cruise down the Nile River. The story begins with Poirot on vacation in Egypt, where he runs into an old friend named Lynette Ridgway. Lynette is a young and beautiful heiress who has just married her handsome new husband, Simon Doyle. However, their marriage is already off to a rocky start due to the fact that Simon was previously engaged to Lynette's best friend, Jacqueline de Belfort. Despite this tension, Poirot is happy for his friends and wishes them well on their honeymoon. But when he sees Jacqueline at the train station, heartbroken and armed with a gun, he can't help but worry for their safety. Sure enough, tragedy strikes when Jacqueline boards the same cruise ship as the newlyweds. She confronts them in front of all the other passengers, causing a scene and then disappearing. Later that night, Lynette is found dead in her cabin, shot through the head. Poirot immediately begins his investigation, interviewing all of the suspects and gathering clues. The passengers on the ship are an eclectic mix of characters, each with their own secrets and motivations for wanting Lynette dead. There's the bitter and jealous Jacqueline, of course, but there's also a wealthy couple who were friends with Lynette's late first husband, a socialite who was in love with Simon before he met Lynette, and a communist revolutionary who believes that Lynette's wealth is immoral. As Poirot delves deeper into the case, he discovers that many of the passengers have a connection to Lynette's past, and that she had made some powerful enemies along the way. He also uncovers a web of lies and deceit, as everyone on board seems to be hiding something. One of the things I love about this book is how Agatha Christie uses the setting of the Nile River to add to the sense of mystery and intrigue. The ship becomes its own little world, cut off from the outside world, and Poirot must navigate the complex relationships between the passengers in order to solve the case. Another interesting aspect of the book is the theme of obsession and jealousy. Jacqueline's fixation on Simon and Lynette drives much of the plot, but she's not the only one with a skewed perspective. Many of the characters are consumed by their own desires and ambitions, leading them to make poor decisions and put themselves in dangerous situations. Overall, Death on the Nile is a classic Agatha Christie mystery that keeps you guessing until the very end. The setting, characters, and themes all come together to create a riveting and thought-provoking read. Whether you're a fan of the genre or just looking for a good book to curl up with, Death on the Nile is a must. Read. Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie is a masterclass in misdirection and suspense. The story follows the famous detective Hercule Poirot as he attempts to solve a murder on a luxurious cruise down the Nile River. The victim is a wealthy heiress named Lynette Ridgway, who was recently married to a man named Simon Doyle, much to the chagrin of his jilted former fiancée, Jacqueline de Belfort. One of the key events in the book is the murder itself, which takes place on the second night of the cruise. Lynette is found dead in her cabin, shot through a window while she was out on deck. The twist here is that there were several possible suspects, including Jacqueline, Simon, and a host of other colorful characters who all had motives to want Lynette dead. One of the most intriguing red herrings in the book is the character of Louise Bourget, Lynette's royal maid. At first, she seems like an unlikely suspect, but as the story unfolds, we learn that she has a secret connection to one of the other passengers. This revelation casts doubt on her innocence and keeps the reader guessing until the very end. Another key event is the discovery of a hidden room on the boat, which contains a stash of jewels belonging to Lynette. This discovery leads Poirot to suspect that the motive for the murder may have been robbery, but as he delves deeper into the case, he realizes that there are many more layers to the crime. The twist at the end of the book is truly shocking, as we learn the identity of the killer and their motivations for committing the crime. It's a testament to Christie's skill as a writer that she is able to keep the reader guessing until the very last page, and even when the truth is revealed, it still comes as a surprise. One of the themes that runs throughout Death on the Nile is the corrupting influence of wealth and power. Lynette Ridgway is a prime example of this, as she seems to be universally disliked by those around her, despite her outwardly charming demeanor. The other passengers on the boat are all drawn to her money and status, but ultimately, their greed leads them down a dangerous path. Another theme that Christie explores is the idea of fate and destiny. Several of the characters in the book seem to be trapped by their pasts, unable to move forward or escape the consequences of their actions. This is most evident in the character of Jacqueline de Belfort, who is driven to madness by her love for Simon Doyle and her desire for revenge against Lynette. Overall, Death on the Nile is a masterful work of detective fiction that keeps the reader guessing until the very end. The twists and turns of the plot are expertly crafted, and the characters are richly drawn and believable. Whether you're a fan of Agatha Christie or just looking for a gripping mystery to read, Death on the Nile is not to be missed. In Death on the Nile, the climax and resolution of the story are truly captivating. The entire novel builds up to this pivotal moment when the truth about the murderer is finally revealed. As we journey through the pages, we are introduced to a diverse cast of characters, each with their own secrets and motivations. But it's not until the very end that we discover how these elements intertwine and who among them is responsible for the heinous crime. The climax of the story takes place on the Nile River, during a luxurious cruise. A wealthy heiress named Lynette Ridgway has been murdered in cold blood, and it's up to Hercule Poirot, the famous Belgian detective, to solve the case. Throughout the novel, we are given clues and red herrings that lead us down various paths of suspicion. However, as we reach the climax, we discover that the true killer is none other than Jacqueline de Belfort. Jacqueline had been engaged to Simon Doyle, who later left her for Lynette Ridgway. This act of betrayal led Jacqueline to become unhinged and seek revenge on both Simon and Lynette. She planned the murder meticulously, using a variety of disguises and manipulations to make it seem as though someone else was responsible. In the end, however, her plan is unraveled by Poirot's keen eye for detail and his ability to see through deception. The resolution of the story is equally satisfying. After Jacqueline's arrest, Poirot gathers all of the suspects together to explain his reasoning and reveal the truth. He goes through each piece of evidence and every suspicious action, connecting them in a way that makes perfect sense. It's a thrilling moment as we finally see how all of the puzzle pieces fit together. What sets Death on the Nile apart from other mystery novels is its focus on character development and psychological insight. Each character is fully realized and complex, with their own motivations and flaws. Agatha Christie does an excellent job of exploring the human condition, showing how even the most seemingly innocent individuals can be capable of great cruelty. One theme that runs throughout the novel is the idea of jealousy and its destructive power. Jacqueline's jealousy over Simon's betrayal leads her to commit murder, while other characters grapple with their own feelings of envy and resentment. This theme adds depth and nuance to the story, making it more than just a simple whodunit. Another notable aspect of Death on the Nile is its setting. The lush and exotic landscape of Egypt provides a striking backdrop for the story, adding an air of mystery and intrigue. Christie's descriptions of the Nile River, the temples, and the markets are so vivid that we feel as though we are there alongside the characters. In conclusion, Death on the Nile is a masterful work of detective fiction. The climax and resolution are expertly crafted, with each twist and turn leading us closer to the truth. But it's the rich character development and psychological insight that truly set this novel apart. Agatha Christie has created a world that is both beautiful and dangerous, filled with complex individuals who are capable of great kindness and great cruelty. Whether you're a fan of mystery novels or just looking for a gripping story, Death on the Nile is not to be missed. Sure thing. Let's dive into the themes and significance of Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile. One of the most prominent themes in the novel is the destructive power of jealousy. The story revolves around a love triangle between Simon Doyle, his wealthy wife Lynette Ridgway, and her childhood friend Jackie de Belfort. Jackie's fixation on Simon and her belief that he belongs to her ultimately leads to tragic consequences. Another theme that Christie explores is the idea of justice and punishment. The novel raises questions about whether it is ever justifiable to take the law into one's own hands, and what the consequences of doing so might be. This is exemplified by the character of Andrew Pennington, who embezzles money from Lynette in order to pay off his gambling debts, but ultimately pays the ultimate price for his actions. A related theme is that of class and privilege. The novel takes place on a luxury cruise ship traveling down the Nile, and many of the characters come from wealthy or aristocratic backgrounds. Christie uses this setting to highlight the vast chasm between the haves and have-nots, and to critique the shallow materialism and snobbery that can often accompany wealth. At the same time, however, she also shows how class and privilege can blind people to the true nature of those around them. For example, many of the characters assume that because they come from a certain social background, they are inherently superior to others. This blind spot leads them to underestimate characters like Louise Bourget, the French maid who was ultimately instrumental in solving the mystery. Another significant aspect of Death on the Nile is its exploration of the human psyche. Christie was a master at creating complex and multidimensional characters, and this novel is no exception. Each character has their own motivations, secrets, and flaws, which are gradually revealed over the course of the story. One of the most interesting examples of this is Hercule Poirot himself. While he may appear to be a stereotypical detective at first glance, Christie delves deeper into his character, revealing his insecurities and vulnerabilities. In particular, she explores the tension between his desire for justice and his belief in the importance of forgiveness. Overall, Death on the Nile is a rich and complex novel that offers much to chew on thematically. Its exploration of jealousy, justice, class, and the human psyche make it a timeless classic that continues to captivate readers today. So if you're looking for a gripping mystery with depth and substance, this is definitely a book worth checking out. Absolutely. In Death on the Nile, Agatha Christie explores several major themes that are as relevant today as they were when she penned the novel in 1937. One of the most prominent themes is justice, which is woven throughout the story and becomes even more complex in the context of a murder mystery. At first glance, it might seem like the concept of justice in Death on the Nile is straightforward. There's a murderer on the loose, and it's up to Hercule Poirot to unmask them and bring them to justice. However, Christie delves deeper into the idea of justice by examining the motivations behind the crime and exploring the question of whether or not the punishment fits the crime. Another theme that emerges in Death on the Nile is love, particularly in its destructive forms. Many of the characters are driven by jealousy and obsession, which ultimately lead to tragedy. For example, the novel's central romance between Simon Doyle and Lynette Ridgway is plagued by the interference of Jacqueline de Belfort, who is consumed with jealousy over losing Simon to her best friend. But perhaps the most pervasive theme in Death on the Nile is social class, which plays a significant role in shaping the characters' relationships and interactions. Christie uses the microcosm of the cruise ship to explore the rigid hierarchy of British society at the time, with its strict delineations between the wealthy elite and the working class. The character of Lynette Ridgway, who is one of the wealthiest women in England, embodies this theme. She's used to getting what she wants and wielding her power over others, which creates tension and resentment among some of the other characters. At the same time, Christie doesn't shy away from portraying the harsh realities of poverty and social inequality, particularly through the character of Louise Bourget, Lynette's maid. Interestingly, Christie also subverts some of these class dynamics throughout the novel. For example, while Hercule Poirot is a member of the upper class, he's also an outsider who is often dismissed or underestimated by the other characters due to his foreign accent and mannerisms. Similarly, Jacqueline de Belfort, despite her privileged upbringing, becomes a social outcast after being jilted by Simon. Ultimately, Death on the Nile is a complex and thought-provoking exploration of human nature and society. By examining themes like justice, love, and social class through the lens of a murder mystery, Christie invites readers to consider these issues in new and nuanced ways. Whether you're a fan of classic detective novels or just looking for a gripping read, Death on the Nile is definitely worth checking out. When it comes to classic detective novels, few authors can match the enduring appeal and skill of Agatha Christie. In Death on the Nile, her writing style shines through in every page, drawing readers into a world of intrigue and mystery that is both captivating and thought-provoking. One of the most striking aspects of Christie's writing is her ability to create rich, complex characters that feel fully realized and alive on the page. From the brilliant but eccentric detective Hercule Poirot to the wealthy and enigmatic Lynette Ridgway, each character in Death on the Nile is imbued with a unique personality and set of motivations that drive the plot forward. Christie also excels at creating a sense of place and atmosphere in her novels. The lush, exotic setting of the Nile River provides a perfect backdrop for the story, evoking a sense of mystery and otherworldliness that heightens the tension and intrigue. Whether she's describing the opulent interiors of a luxury steamer or the bustling markets of Cairo, Christie's prose paints a vivid picture that transports readers to another time and place. Another hallmark of Christie's writing style is her mastery of plot twists and turns. Just when readers think they have figured out who committed the murder, Christie throws in a new piece of evidence or a surprise revelation that upends their assumptions and keeps them guessing until the very end. This kind of unpredictability is what makes Death on the Nile, and many of Christie's other novels, so compelling and addictive. But beyond her technical skill as a writer, Christie also has a keen insight into human nature and psychology. Through her characters and plot, she explores themes like justice, love, and social class in nuanced and thought-provoking ways. For example, the character of Lynette Ridgway is both sympathetic, as a young woman who has recently inherited a vast fortune, and unsympathetic, as someone who seems to take her wealth and privilege for granted. By exploring these complexities, Christie invites readers to consider these issues in new and nuanced ways. Another interesting aspect of Death on the Nile is its exploration of the concept of justice. While Poirot is determined to bring the killer to justice, he also grapples with the idea that the legal system may not always be fair or just. This tension between individual justice and systemic injustice adds an extra layer of depth to the story and makes it more than just a simple whodunit. Of course, Christie's writing style has evolved over her long career, and Death on the Nile shows some of the hallmarks of her later works. For example, she tends to rely more heavily on dialogue than description, using conversation to reveal character and plot rather than lengthy descriptions of setting or action. This can make the pacing feel a bit uneven at times, but it also keeps the story moving forward and prevents it from becoming bogged down in unnecessary detail. In conclusion, Agatha Christie's writing style in Death on the Nile is marked by rich characterization, vivid description, masterful plot twists, and insightful social commentary. While her prose may not be as ornate or experimental as some other writers of the time, it is incredibly effective at drawing readers into a world of mystery and intrigue that keeps them engaged until the very end. Whether you're a fan of classic detective novels or just looking for a gripping read, Death on the Nile is definitely worth checking out. Death on the Nile is just one example of Agatha Christie's mastery of the detective genre. She has written over 60 detective novels, and many of them have become cultural touchstones. Her most famous creation, the mustachioed Belgian detective Hercule Poirot, has become synonymous with the genre itself. One of the things that sets Christie apart from her contemporaries is her ability to create complex and memorable characters. In Death on the Nile, we have a diverse cast of suspects, each with their own motives and secrets. The victim, Lynette Ridgway, is a wealthy heiress who has married the man her best friend loved. Her former friend, Jacqueline de Belfort, follows them on their honeymoon, intent on making Lynette pay for stealing her happiness. Meanwhile, Lynette's new husband, Simon Doyle, is charming but feckless, and seems more interested in his wife's money than in her. But it's not just the main characters that make an impression. Even the minor characters are fully realized with their own backstories and motivations. For example, there's Salome Otterborn, a romance novelist who is on the cruise to research her next book. She's flamboyant and larger than life, but also vulnerable and insecure about her writing. Then there's Mr. Reoppression, Ferguson, a businessman who seems respectable at first but turns out to have a hidden past. This attention to character is one of the reasons why Christie's novels continue to resonate with readers today. She creates characters that are complex and human, with their own flaws and virtues. We can relate to them even as we try to guess their secrets. Another reason for Christie's enduring popularity is her skill at plotting. Death on the Nile is a perfect example of this. The novel takes place on a cruise ship traveling down the Nile, and the murder happens early on in the journey. The reader then has to follow Poirot as he interviews the suspects, gathers evidence, and tries to solve the case before the killer strikes again. Christie is a master at misdirection, leading the reader down one path only to reveal that it was a red herring all along. She also has a knack for creating twists that are both surprising and satisfying. In Death on the Nile, the solution to the mystery is revealed in a dramatic confrontation scene, where Poirot gathers all the suspects together and reveals the truth. It's a classic Christie moment, and one that never fails to thrill. But Death on the Nile is more than just a clever puzzle. It also explores themes of jealousy, obsession, and class conflict. The novel is set in the 1930s, a time when the old social order was beginning to crumble. Lynette Ridgway represents the new moneyed elite, while characters like Salome Otterborn and her daughter represent the struggling middle classes. This clash of cultures adds an extra layer of tension to the novel and makes the resolution all the more satisfying. In conclusion, Death on the Nile is a classic detective novel that showcases Agatha Christie's skills as a writer. Its complex characters, intricate plotting, and thoughtful themes make it a gripping read, even today. Whether you're a fan of the genre or just looking for a good story, Death on the Nile is definitely worth checking out. It's a testament to Christie's talent that her novels continue to captivate readers, even as other trends in literature come and go. So why not take a journey down the Nile with Poirot and see where the mystery takes you?